Hello, 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 good people, and welcome to Happy, Healthy, Whole with Sharea. I am Sharea, and this is our Emotional Wellness Monday, Mind Matters. And I am going to focus today on self-care because last week I did the basics of mental health. This week I am talking self-care from our basic point. And so I'm going to do some mind matters that are very basic in order for those who are new to my channel to get a gist of some of the things that we may have talked about over the last few years. Again, I am Sharea Farmer. If you haven't liked or subscribed as of yet, please do like the videos, share the videos, and keep us growing because I'm very proud of getting a bigger audience, but also I'd like for our audience to be engaged. So welcome back everyone to another episode of Mind Matters. I'm Sharea Farmer, a licensed clinical social worker, and today we're talking about one of my favorite topics, the power of self-care and mental wellness. So self-care is probably one of the things that you for sure, if you follow me in any way, shape, or form, know that I talk about in my different areas. We have Self-Care for Black Girls Facebook group, which if you haven't already, you can actually join and get some tips from different angles of mental health, mental wellness. And I just know that you'll love it. Anyway, that being said, self-care is more than just a buzzword when it comes to how I look at it. I look at it as our whole selves needing a check-in, and so important for us to be able to check in with ourselves while also acknowledging our humanity. So, although I'm not in, I love a good bubble bath or a good spa day or treating myself to something nice, I do want us to go a little bit deeper when we think or talk about self care. And while all of those things that I mentioned, the spa day, the bubble baths, all of that good stuff is great. Self-care is so much deeper than that when it comes to our emotional wellness and our mental and our mind mattering. It's important that we know this only because emotional health, self-care looks at it from not just the emotional health, but your physical and mental well-being. So when we're creating habits, it becomes these things that we enjoy, but also it creates a strength in these areas that I just mentioned. Our emotional, our physical, our mental, our spiritual, our intellectual, all of the selves, right? All of them, all of them. So self-care is how we recharge our batteries. So there's things that we do every day that keeps our battery going. And then there's things that we do to recharge our battery. So you need to keep showing up for yourself, not just having momentary or lapses that are about caring in the moment or doing one or two things here. But there's some things that we need to do every single day to maintain um, balance, but also to maintain this strength around our mental self, our emotional selves, our spiritual selves, our physical selves, our intellectual selves, all of ourselves, right? So when you see the word self-care, and you've seen this a million times, self-care, first off, is not selfish. In fact, it is necessary for us to prevent things like burnout. Self-care equals preventing burnout, which equals managing and maintaining balance, right? So if we think about it from that perspective, we know that our sense of balance in life comes from the things that we are able to do that bring us joy. When we neglect our mental health, even even on small things, it can become overwhelming. So when we think about it, like when we don't rest, it could ruin our week or our day, or it could ruin our week. Self-care helps us to do things like reset, recharge, and kind of just really show up for ourselves on a daily basis. Think of self-care as a art of managing and maintaining your mind. Managing and maintaining your mind. Just like you would when you're doing a oil change or your regular tune-ups for your car, you need to be doing that for your mental and emotional well-being. So self-care is your maintenance. It's not just, and that's why it's important to kind of go deeper than just the actual uh, bubble baths and spa days. Those are included, but they are not the only thing that keeps our mental health. So let me talk a little bit about some areas. I'm only going to focus today on four of them, but there's a lot of areas that I will talk about in my channel. Today, I'm really going to focus on emotional, physical, mental, and social health, which is the areas that you'll hear me talk about the most, but they're not the only. When we think about it, this goes beyond pampering ourselves or pampering ourselves for a day. It goes into how are we doing maintenance in these specific areas. So emotional self-care looks like taking time to process your feelings. For some of us, that's journaling. For others, it's talking to a therapist. For others, it's simply giving yourself permission to feel no judgment or to live in a life where you don't judge yourself or critique yourself on every movement. So, thinking about taking the time to process those things and how we feel will allow us to then have emotional health that we are also including self awareness and self reflection. I will get into all of those topics and or have talked about some of those topics already. But when we think about emotional wellness or emotional self-care, I want you to think taking time to process your feelings in a journal with a therapist, giving yourself permission not to be judgmental and critical of yourself. All are ways to take care of your self-care with emotional health. Physical self-care looks at moving your body. You hear me in our self-care for Black girls group say often, we don't tell you what to do or how to do it, but we do want you to move. We want your body to feel good, whether that's walking, dancing, stretching, yoga, or getting a good night's sleep. Your physical self-care is going to help you be a part of your best self when it comes to your mental and emotional health. The next thing is mental self-care, which is about setting boundaries, being self-compassionate, taking breaks from social media, learning something new, and stimulating your mind so that you can grow personal development. So thinking about mental health, or excuse me, mental self-care from that perspective of how am I doing things for me, but also allowing breaks for myself and caring for myself. And then social care or self-care is really about spending time with good people, knowing that there's joy and having those around you who can lift you up and make you feel good. But also, it's about setting boundaries when there are those who drain you or take from you, and you're giving, giving, giving without a replenish of boundaries that say, I can't give anymore. I have to take care of me as well. So, self care looks different for everyone. Excuse me, looks different for every single one of us. All right. The key is to finding and looking at the regular practices that you can create to nurture these areas. For emotional self-care, it might be journaling. For physical self-care, it might be dancing or taking walks every day, or taking walks or 30-minute walks as often as you can. For mental health, it might be taking a break from social media. It might be leaning into loving yourself and being more self-compassionate to you. For social health, it might be creating times and check-ins throughout the day where you're checking in for laughter with your girlfriends and your family. Those are different ways that we create routines that also build us to our best self. Now, how do we actually create a self-care routine that really kind of helps us to start small? Trying to overload or overdo it will make it easy for you to quit. You don't need an overhaul on your whole life to see benefits in self-care. That is the truth. It can be as simple as 5 minutes a day each morning, sitting quiet, thinking, having thoughts, reading the Bible, work reading or your reading your own religious background book. I'm sorry, I can't think of the term at this moment. Forgive me. But being able to do those things for yourself for 5 minutes before setting off to the world or setting off to your children and helping everyone else. So if that means I have to get up 5 minutes earlier in order to have that 5 minute meditation time with my own self, it's helpful. It could be things like, if that's too much, it could be things like setting a bedtime and sticking to it, unwinding earlier so that you can relax and have a shorter take down time for sleep, right? Finding those things that will create small habits will be then an opportunity to create larger ones. So, few tips really quickly. Be intentional when it comes to your actual self-care and prioritizing yourself. not an afterthought, but a calendar plan, right? So if you need to put on your schedule walking 30 minutes today, 5:30 to 6:30 to 6. Stay consistent. The benefit of self-care comes when you are more consistent. So the more you do it consistently, the more your body and your mind will enjoy, or excuse me, the more it will pay off. Sorry. And then listen to what your needs are. When we think about those areas that I mentioned, there's certain things that are louder than others. If your body needs more movement, start with that one. 5-minute walk, go up to 15. 15 minutes to 30, I mean to 20, 20 to 25, whatever the case is, finding that routine, but listening to what your needs are, and then doing them and scheduling them so that you can show up consistently and be motivated towards them. I am a believer that we all have opportunities to create self-care plans, even if they're small. That doesn't mean that I'm asking you to turn your whole week into a self-care every single day and do different things. No, pick one, start small, and be consistent. A quick morning stretch can be an example for your physical. A short journal entry can be your emotional. A phone call to a friend can be your social. Whatever you choose, do it consistently. I want you to commit to it for just 1 week. That's literally going to be our action plan for this week. Commit to it for 1 week. And I want you to just choose one. A quick stretch in the morning for 1 week. A call to my friend for 1 week. A short journal entry for 1 week. I just want you to be consistent for the 1 week and notice how it impacts your mood and mental health. If it doesn't, then we try something else. We don't give up on ourselves. We believe in ourselves. Drop your self-care plan in the comment section because I would love to be able to either cheer you on, give you tips, or start to inspire you with some other options, as well as if you are in that comment section, do the same for others. Encourage them, give them tips, help them to acknowledge what they're doing might be working because we are in this together, if nothing else. Thank you so much for again tuning in. If you haven't already, like and subscribe. I will be working on continuing this Mind Matters moment for our emotional wellness Mondays. And remember, if you have anything you'd like me to talk about, feel free to add it in the comments as well. Self-care isn't selfish, it's essential. Until I talk to you next week, take good care of yourselves. Be well.